Did Wisconsin Congressman Paul Ryan actually lose a congressional special election in New York? And have the American people resoundingly rejected the Republican Medicare reform plan? I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, and with me perhaps to mourn and weep and rend our garments, from Monument, Colorado, the vodka pundit Stephen Green, and from Los Angeles, California, the co-founder of DeclarationEntertainment.com, Bill Whittle. Now, brothers, listen to our journo sister, Rachel Maddow, just after the polls closed in upstate New York Tuesday night.
This was the front page of the Buffalo News today. Nation watches vote in 26th district. Medicare issue defines the campaign. The defining issue in this election, including, according to the local news, has been the Republican candidate's support for the Paul Ryan Kill Medicare plan. That one issue, the Kill Medicare issue, more than any other, has essentially turned what should have been an easy victory for the Republican Party into a nail-biter tonight.
And of course, as you know, Democrat Kathy Hochul defeated Republican Jane Corwin by about 4% of the vote, with another 9% going to self-professed Tea Party candidate Jack Davis. Well, Stephen Green, the Democrats slammed the Republican for backing Paul Ryan's budget, which Rachel Maddow lovingly called the Kill Medicare plan. Have Republicans already lost the battle to frame the Medicare debate? And does the Medicare issue jeopardize the entire Ryan budget?
Well, first, you have to know that the Ryan plan it's a starting point. It's a proposal to get the Democrats to come out and negotiate, and they refuse. Maddow demagogues the issue. Harry Reid demagogues it. Nancy Pelosi might be demagoguing, but nobody listens to her anymore. There's a little tear just for Nancy. But they simply refuse to talk about the budget. They have the White House and half of Congress, and they won't talk about our spending problem. It's insane. So I mean, I'm not sure you framed the question correctly, because you presume that a real discussion, a real negotiation is possible with these people. So what we're left with, I think, is an entire political party driven and determined to spend and spend and spend until the whole thing comes crashing down around us, until Medicare is gone and retirees are left with nothing. You know, that's Rachel Maddow's Kill the Old People plan. I hope she likes it.
Oh, my goodness. First the Republicans, now me. I've already lost the battle to frame the debate. Bill Whittle, the so-called Tea Party candidate Jack Davis, spent millions of dollars of his own money and nearly got into the double digits in the election the other night. Not enough to get him one of their gold-plated congressional health care policies for himself, but it looked like just enough to confuse some conservative voters and account for the Democrats' margin of victory. Bill, does the Tea Party movement share some of the blame for losing this seat, which, by the way, had been held by a Republican for something like 137 of the past 158 years?
Wow. Scotty, wasn't he a Democrat, this guy who ran as a Tea Party candidate?
Well, he was a Republican who converted as to become a Democrat to run in a previous election, and I think he was a Democrat who then became an independent. So it's hard to tell exactly what he was.
Well, there's 9% of your vote. You know, if you count the votes that the Republicans got and you count the votes that the conservatives got, you whip the hell out of the Democratic contender, right? I think Rachel Maddow might want to take a look at that math. If the Republican candidate got whatever the percentage was, lost by 4 points to the Democrat, and then the person running as the Tea Party conservative picked up another 9 points, that tells me that if you combine the vote total, people supported the Ryan plan, not opposed it. I can do math. I guess it's kind of news for Rachel, but you know, she's got other things to do. She's got to hang out at Hoover Dam and wear the hoodie and tell us about how we all need to lean forward at the Hoover Dam. That's their strategy, by the way, for the whole country. Go to the edge of the Hoover Dam and lean forward.
Till you smack your head.
Steve, our Tea Party friends and Republicans sometimes come under fire for wanting to take an axe to federal spending, but then crying the blues if anyone tries to touch their Medicare or Social Security. First of all, is that a fair critique? And if so, do you smell some hypocrisy here on the part of so-called smaller government folks who voted for the Democrat in this race?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that kind of at the end here, but I don't think not one real smaller government folk voted for it, and I can tell you that right now. There is no longer any kind of working constituency on the Democratic side for smaller government. They grew the behemoth by 25% in just 2 years, and then just a few weeks ago they moaned that cutting a fraction of 1% of 1 year's spending was going to bring us all to ruin, to too little government. But let's be honest here. There's barely a constituency on the Republican side for real reform. There are plenty of voters, but once these jokers get into office, they turn into big spenders almost as bad as the Democrats. I'm talking about you, Newt. Now there are still a lot of Tea Party folks out there who mean well, but they don't understand yet that Medicare and Social Security are what is absolutely killing this budget. It's our job to educate them so that they can help their Congress critters to make the hard choices.
Well, men, let's take a look at the evil Paul Ryan and his wicked kill Medicare plan.
There is another better approach. The House-passed budget, the path to prosperity, saves Medicare for current seniors and strengthens it for future generations. Those in and near retirement should not be forced to reorganize their lives because of government's mistakes. That's why our budget ensures no changes for those 55 years old or older. But for current taxpayers and future generations, we need real reform. Rather than putting the government in charge, our plan provides financial support to help future Medicare patients pay for the insurance plan that works best for them and their families. Patients will have the freedom of choice from a list of guaranteed coverage options, the same kind of system members of Congress enjoy today. And insurance providers competing for patients' business will look to lower costs and increase quality for their services, the way it always works when the consumer is in charge.
Now, Bill, that doesn't sound like a kill Medicare plan. That sounds kind of like a save Medicare plan. But are Ryan and congressional Republicans doomed to have their policies redefined by the Democrats and the mainstream media? And if not, what should they do to counter this Mediscare narrative?
The last firewall I did was about memes and how memes are launched into the culture. And one of the memes was that George Bush stood on the deck of that aircraft carrier and said, "Mission accomplished in the war on terror." He said precisely the opposite of that. He said, "We have a lot of work left to do. This is a long, ongoing struggle. This doesn't mean anything. This is just the beginning." He said that. The press made it up out of whole cloth. Rachel Maddow and the rest of them are doing it again. If you just listen to what Paul Ryan says in the first 10 seconds of that video, you know, they're lying. They're not misrepresenting. They're not shading. They're not spinning. They're lying about something that if the American people were informed about, they might support. So the answer is, how do you get this past this giant media wall? And the only way to do it is to make sure that every single GOP candidate who is ever interviewed at any time by anybody starts any question about anything by saying, "Oh, before I begin to talk about the National Park Service, I'd like to point out, as you plainly do not understand, the Ryan plan is there to save Medicare." Now, onto the reservation issue, or onto this issue, or onto that issue. These people play dirty. They put false candidates into races. They play filthy. You have got to get in the game with these people. You cannot fight with the Marquis of Queensberry rules against people this dishonest, this dishonorable, and this prone to lying.
Now, of course, if you really want to see Paul Ryan talk about a plan to end Medicare as we know it, well, here it is from his appearance on this week's MSNBC's Morning Joe.
The real irony of this thing, Joe, of the Medicare campaign we're about to hear is the president's health care law takes $500 billion from Medicare, not to make it more solvent, but to actually spend it on Obamacare, and then it puts a new rationing board in charge of Medicare next year to start price controlling Medicare to deny access to current seniors.
Now, Steve, I remember hearing the president address a joint session of Congress telling them that he was going to fund his new massive government health care plan by cutting $500 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse from the existing massive government health care plan. How can right-thinking Americans convince their neighbors that the Affordable Care Act is President Obama's kill Medicare plan?
You know what you and Ryan both left out? That same $500 billion that he cut out of Medicare that he spends on Obamacare, he then claims to use for deficit reduction. Anyway,
right.
to answer your question, right-thinking people don't have to do anything. They don't have to speak out. They don't have to get involved. They don't even have to vote because reality is on their side. And eventually, reality is going to bring this whole welfare and regulation state crashing down, and it's going to take the whole country with it. And people can say, I told you so, and then get back to work. I just hope they still remember the way back from Galt's Gulch.
Amen, brother.
Stephen Green hosts Hair of the Dog, the Weekend Blogs and Coast to Coast Tea Party here on PJTV.com. Don't miss his trifecta this week on Bibi Netanyahu's speech before Congress. Classic stuff. Well, Bill, what do you make of the irrational exuberance coming from Democrats about the New York 26 upset? Is it liberal triumphalism because they finally found an issue that's a real elephant slayer in 2012? Or is it merely a bluff to get congressional Republicans to back off Medicare reform, knowing that most Republicans will flee if they think the issue is toxic at the ballot box?
Well, irrational, any response is in character for them, so I'm not surprised about that part of it. Let's just simply say this. I'm with Steve 100% on this. Our job as pundits is to try to educate the American people and reach as many people as we can with argument and try to sway them. But ultimately, when I go to bed at night worried about things like this, two things console me. When I hear liberals and anarchists talk about they're going to start a war in the street, I'm consoled by the fact that it's my side that has the guns and practices with them and knows how to use them. That is an irreducible element in my being able to sleep at night. And the other part is, Steve Green is absolutely right. Medicare, as it is built today, is going to go away. And so is Social Security. It's either going to be collapsing or it's going to get built down. Those are our choices.
Bill Whittle is co-founder of DeclarationEntertainment.com. You can catch his latest Firewall episode at BillWhittle.net. And don't miss his trifecta this week on the health benefits of manly men taking in an exhibition at the gallery. Well, even if you acknowledge that the fear of Medicare reform was the winning strategy for the Democrat in New York 26, that doesn't mean that folks hate the Ryan budget. It may just mean that once again, Republicans let Democrats tell a story that connected emotionally with voters. Notice that even Paul Ryan's excellent explanation of the plan is essentially a PowerPoint presentation with stylized icons representing senior citizens. But when Democrats attack the Ryan plan, they do a movie that shows Paul Ryan throwing grandma off a cliff. Republicans need to convey their rational ideas in vivid, emotional narrative. They need to speak in the heart language of the voter. Grandma shuffles across the living room, wincing with each step. She glances at the phone. She leans on the kitchen counter, sighs, fusses with the fringe of the hand towel, waits for the toast to pop. She gazes toward the clock on the wall. With great difficulty, she eases herself into her favorite chair, lays a trembling hand on the phone, closes her eyes. It rings. She grabs it with both hands. Hello? Oh, it's you, honey. No, I was just hoping it might be the doctor's office. I guess they don't call it a waiting list for nothing. For Steve Green, Bill Whittle, and the entire trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.